6 NFL. I am Squish. That is Kyle. And boy, do I wish that the viewers could listen to our conversations pre-show. I really wish, because we scream, we yell, we cry, and we burp a lot as well.
Yeah, I wanted to strangle you 10 seconds ago about these absurd basketball takes that you're throwing around. But this is an NFL show, so we're not gonna address that. So
I know you got a long wingspan, but you can't strangle me from 6 feet apart, Kyle. I just want you to know.
I know. It's true. So yeah, it was frustrating. It was very frustrating. But again, this is an NFL show. This is about fantasy football and DFS. So that's what we're going to give you right here.
Oh, Bert's watching. He said he's heard plenty of that. And yes, he has heard plenty of it. We've had that same conversation. Quick recap of last week. We were both pretty well. We were pretty spot on. 3 or 4 each, I'd say. My only miss was Cameron Brate in the single game. I had him as my must play in that champion spot at 3.3. He still got you about 23 points with his multiplier at 3.33 or 3.3, excuse me, 5 catches, 44 yards. Not great, but, got you some points. Mike Davis, my must start, did unreal, of course.
Yep.
16 carries, 89 yards, which is a season high. Season high in targets 10 and catches 9, 60 yards with a touchdown, just under 37 points. My fade, Michael Gallup, it was looking great most of the night. He ended up with 4 catches for 73 yards. One of those was a big catch in garbage time. That was an amazing catch on the sideline. And then my stack. I mean, call me Squishy Stacks. Call me Stacky Squish, all you want, because we had Teddy Bridgewater, Mike Davis, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore. That's a total of 124.38. Wow. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying. I didn't even play that. And I should have played it. I didn't even do it.
You really should have. I know.
I played one of those guys against you in that contest. It was Mike Davis.
Yeah.
Still cashed, but.
Right. Yeah. So Teddy Bridgewater, or just anybody involving the Falcons, that's an easy stack, because we were talking about this before we came on. Anybody who the Falcons just give up 1,000 points to everybody, and the Falcons can put up points on everybody. So those are some pretty safe stacks to go with. So good job by you last week.
Yeah, your only snafu last week was your stack. Burrow, Ingram, Tyler Boyd. We're not going to bring up the numbers. We're just
bad
bad, real bad, stinker. We're not going to talk about it, even though, Kyle, that was a stinker pick by you. You could have done a lot better.
Yeah,
you hit on Ronald Jones in the single game. 106 yards on the ground, 19 through the air. Flex, 25.6. In your champion spot, Ronald Jones got you 38.4. So good for you there. Jamison Crowder, too. You said you loved him when Darnold was a quarterback, and you still liked him with Flacco. Well, good for you. 10 targets, 8 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown. And we need to talk about Jamison Crowder this season. In his 3 games, double-digit targets, either 7 or 8 catches, over 100 yards, and a touchdown in 2 out of the 3. Jamison Crowder is turning into someone you can trust.
Absolutely. He's a star level. I mean, he's playing like a star level slot receiver. So
he is.
And even with Sam Darnold and Joe Flacco as his quarterbacks, he's still putting up those numbers. And at last week, he was a 1.5x multiplier. And, that's big time juice right there. So
in your other hit, you said fade Joe Mixon. He had 94 total yards on 24 carries and 6 catches. So good for you there. Fade Joe Mixon. Get rid of that recency bias. He was never going to excel in that game against the Ravens.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, the Ravens obviously are a much better team than the Bengals are. They got out in front. I think they were up like 24-0 in that game. So it wasn't a game where Joe Mixon was going to get a lot of touches on the ground. He still got his touches in the passing game, but he was definitely. It wasn't going to be like the week before against Jacksonville, where he was a part of the game plan the entire game. So yeah, I thought that was a relatively easy regression thing to spot there. So,
all right, you faded Joe Mixon last week. Who are you not fading this week?
So this week I am not fading Adam Thielen, who has turned into the all-pro receiver he was 2 years ago in 2018 with the Minnesota Vikings. So in 2018, he had 113 catches, as you can see on the screen, 1,373 yards and 9 touchdowns. And he was like, at that point, he was a guy that was a great DFS option. And he was winning people a lot of money on DFS with his production, with basically being an all-pro receiver. And he's dealt with injuries and being the second receiver to Stephon Diggs the last couple of years. But now that Diggs is gone and he's back to being the number one guy, he has regained that form. As in the 5 games this year, he already gets 6 touchdowns in 5 games with the 29 catches and 364 yards. And when you average that out to a 16-game sample size, he's on pace for 93 catches, 1,156 yards, and 19 touchdowns, which is obviously not going to happen. Yeah. But that shows the level of play that he's put up so far this year.
You like that?
I love it.
You like that?
I love it. And Kirk Cousins is loving Adam Thielen so far this season, as he should. And he should love this matchup with the Falcons, as I said before, where, the Falcons just suck and they give up a ton of passing yards and to everybody.
Yeah.
And,
you really dove into that one. The Falcons just suck. I love that.
They do. I mean,
it's hard. I agree.
It's an undisputable fact. And
it's called Manalytics.
Second most yards allowed to opposing receivers, 6th most fantasy points allowed to opposing receivers. So this is I do not see any circumstance in which Adam Thielen, cannot speak right now. I cannot see any circumstance in which Adam Thielen doesn't have a good game. And at 1.4x multiplier, I think that's a great option. I would think, I honestly would play him even if he was at like a 1.15 or 1.2. But if you're getting him 1.4, I love it. So, yeah, I'm not fading Adam Thielen.
All right. Kyle's pretty confident in that. I'm pretty confident in this. I love James Robinson this weekend at 1.45x. He was a guy that he was pretty much shoved into this role to tank. But James Robinson is turned into a player who you can tell if you want to tank, you're not going to play James Robinson. He gets his touches. He gets 18.4 per game this season. The Detroit defense is allowing 6.3 yards per touch to running backs. If you factor those in, Robinson's touches per game, Detroit's yards per touch allowed to running backs, 116 total yards. And I believe it's on your screen, 6 total touchdowns to running backs. So I'm going to say it. You're going to get at least 135 total yards and a touchdown from James Robinson this weekend at 1.45x. And game script too, the Detroit offense, they've shown they can be good. They've shown they can stink. Same with their defense as well. So you think they're going to be in that. And even if they're not, even if Jacksonville gets behind, Robinson's not out of the game script. 19 catches on 22 targets, 183 yards on those 19 catches, almost 10 yards per catch. So I think we're going to be in a good spot with James Robinson. You can plug him in cash games and even tournaments too to give you a low floor. I think his floor is, a high floor. His floor is very high with how many touches he's getting on this team. And Gardner Minshew seems to love him.
Yeah, and I totally agree with the game script point. Like, I just can't see a situation where the Lions are blowing somebody out or winning by like more than 2 possessions. Like, that's just not a world that's not something I see existing. So I think it's it's very easy play there with the game script of it's going to be close pretty much the whole time. And the Jaguars like that balance. So I think Robinson is going to have a nice game. And he's provided a lot of value so far this year with his multiplier. So, yeah, I like him a lot. So who's your fade?
My
week,
fade.
Sir?
This is going to be tough. This is going to be a little tough. Just like he did last week, Joe Mixon off that big game, recency bias. Right. He's going to come down. I'm fading Chase Claypool. And I don't know if I'm actually going, Bert with a good little factoid in the Twitch chat there. We're not going to say that name, but that is who you should fade. IMO.
Totally.
IMHO. I'm fading Chase Claypool, and I don't know if I'm going to, but here's the reasons why you should. 13 catches this year, 4 touchdowns. Kyle, is that sustainable?
No.
That is not sustainable. It's not. And a big reason why Claypool had that game last week, and 11 targets, 7 catches, 110 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a touchdown on the ground as well. That game is not sustainable. You cannot guarantee that that's going to be repeated. And a lot of reason why Claypool had those opportunities was because Deontay Johnson was injured in the beginning of the game. For the second time in 3 weeks, Deontay Johnson was injured right at the beginning of the game. So Claypool was thrusted in there. He got a lot more looks because of that. And even if Deontay Johnson doesn't play, I think he's going to, is what Mike Tomlin is expecting. There's a lot of mouths to feed there, right? If he's in, you have Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Eric Ebron's even getting looks by Ben Roethlisberger, and James Conner. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Ben Roethlisberger's not throwing the ball as much as we're used to in recent years, trying to stay healthy. They are really pushing that run game with Conner as of late. In Claypool, at 1.7, he's juicy. He's so attractive because he can have that boomer bust game, which is why I don't hate the play in tournament style, but cash games, I would still have exposure to Claypool. And at 1.7, he's going to be so high owned. He's going to be more owned than just about any receiver higher than 1.3 in my mind. He's going to be one of the most owned players because of what he did last week and his 1.7 juice. So I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to stay away from that. As I'm talking myself into this, maybe I'll play him, just maybe a little sprinkle here or there. Yeah, but I like staying away from him because everybody and their mother's going to be on them.
Yeah, everyone has a recency bias thing when huge performances come out like this and people are they see what they missed out on the week before when they didn't play him, and then they see him and they're like, oh, I can't miss this opportunity this week. And then they get screwed over when he has 3 catches for 40 yards or whatever. He's going to have something like that. So
maybe he goes off. I'm just saying there's a lot of reason you want to fade this guy. There's a lot of reasons.
We need to see more from him to actually have that confidence that he can consistently put these types of performances together.
You can be confident because the Steelers drafted him instead of the Patriots.
That's true.
So he's good.
Yeah, the Steelers can. The Steelers always can. They just pull receivers out of thin air. I don't know
Aaron
how
Dobson.
Happens. It's ridiculous.
N'Keal Harry.
The Patriots cannot. It's a weird thing. The Patriots can get offensive linemen though, so at least that's good. But so for my fade this week, I'm going with a guy who's had a really good start to the season. He's averaging 23.6 fantasy points per game. And you might be thinking I'm insane for fading someone like this. And it's Aaron Jones of the Packers, who great start to the year. But this matchup for him is just, it's the matchup you would want to avoid for all running backs. And the Tampa Bay Bucks have been by far the best run defense in the league so far. They're averaging 2.7 yards per carry, which that's unheard of. That's like an 85 Bears number. Yeah. That's the type of run defense they have. 58.4 yards per game. Those are both top in the league. So I think, Bertsy doesn't like that pick, but you can't dispute these facts that, 22.7 yards per carry, 58.4 yards per game. I mean, these are, best run defense in the league. And even more so, this matchup is going to be about Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. And Aaron Rodgers is going to be putting the ball up in the air. And we've seen, even though my man Tom Brady had a tough week, forgetting what down it was against the Chicago Bears, he didn't know what was going on there. It was an old man moment for him. But we saw the week before he threw 5 touchdown passes against the Chargers. So we've seen he's not a washed up man anymore, or yet, not at least not yet. And I think the Packers are not one of the better pass defenses in the league. So I think Brady can throw the ball around
I don't
know. A little bit.
Zaire Alexander held Ridley to 0 catches in that primetime game a week and a half ago. Zaire Alexander can ball.
And Brady can Brady spreads the ball around the field. He spreads the ball around. So it's not like he's going to be relying strictly on Mike Evans. So I think Rodgers is going to have to throw the ball a little bit to keep up, and they're going to want to avoid the running game anyway. to just to avoid that Tampa Bay run defense. So I think Aaron Jones is, at one point, if he was a higher multiplier, if he was at like 1.4, 1.5, or 1.3, I would definitely consider him just because of how good he's been. But 1.15, I don't think that's enough juice to play him against a defense that's this good. So that's who I'm fading.
Yeah, but before we get to our long shots, a couple questions on YouTube. Someone saying they lost Dak. Should they trade Joe Mixon for, I'm assuming this is Deshaun Watson, full PPR? Yes. Yes, A. Nash, you should trade Joe Mixon for Deshaun Watson. He says he already has Zeke, Kenyon Drake, Chris Carson, Mostert, and James Robinson. Yes, trade Joe Mixon for Deshaun Watson right now and then take that to the bank. Also, another one, Josh Kalu saying, I have Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, Alexander Madison this week, but can only start 3. Which one should I bench? In my opinion, bench Joe Mixon. We've talked about this, and we can talk about his matchup with the Colts. Arguably, in my mind, they're the best defense, just with the eyeball test in the league. The Colts really stout against the ground and the pass for that matter, but really great against the run game. You could say the same with the Steelers. Miles Sanders has that. Actually, no, Miles Sanders is not. No, yeah. Who are the Eagles playing? Yeah, they're not playing Pittsburgh.
They're playing
Baltimore. They were playing Pittsburgh. Yeah, they're playing Baltimore. So I think it's more of just half PPR league, by the way. That's even more reason. Miles Sanders catches balls out of the backfield. Derrick Henry, he's a stud. You saw what he did last night in minimal carries. Still got you 2 touchdowns. They were getting his wheels behind him or his legs under him. This is not a very highly – this show here does not like Joe Mixon. Yeah, so I think you're going to get the same response from both of us. I think it's easy. In Madison, if he's going to get the start, I don't know if Dalvin Cook, is he out?
It looks like
he's going to be out.
It looks like that. So and Madison looked good in limited touches last week.
He looked good.
So
Mike Zimmer likes to run the ball. I
like
think it's an easy sit Mixon in that group you got right there.
With you. I like that.
All right. So my long shot, Damiere Byrd, 1.9x.
Wow, a Patriot. How about that?
A Patriot.
You supported a Patriots player. What a shocker that is.
Yeah, Damiere Byrd, 10 targets his last game against Kansas City. I know it was a week and a half ago because of the cancellation, but that's good. Even with Hoyer and Stidham as your quarterback, he's still getting looks. 7.3 targets per game in his last 3. Edelman's had drop issues. N'Keal Harry stinks. He's disappointing. He's been disappointing, but he stinks. And Denver against wide receivers this year, 67 catches, 794 yards, 5 touchdowns. And that's just in 4 weeks, by the way. 4 weeks that they've done that. And you've had guys similar to Damiere Byrd's speed or just similar players to him have success. Deontay Johnson, 8 catches, 92 and a touchdown. Scotty Miller, I know he lines up in the slot, but more of a similar player than other players on that Tampa Bay Bucs team. He had 3 for 83 that game. Jamison Crowder, again, I know in the slot, 7 for 104 on this defense. And Jeff Smith, even for the Jets, 7 for 81 against this defense. I think Damiere Byrd has a chance to really pop there. And I'm going to go for him. 1.9 in a tournament, not in a cash game. In a tournament, I love it.
Yeah, Cam has found him. So if Cam is playing, which I think he might be, I think it's leaning towards he's playing. I think he's going to find Damiere Byrd a decent amount. Quickly for my long shot, I have a guy that I have a very hard time pronouncing his name. He's from the Atlanta Falcons. Olamide Zaccheaus. Did I nail it? I think I did.
Olamide
Zaccheaus. Yeah. So he's a 2x this week for the Falcons. He didn't have a good game last week. He had 1 catch for 13 yards last week against Carolina, but the week before against the Packers, 8 catches, 86 yards, 12.6 fantasy points. And then, not a great game against the Bears, but some volume there with 4 catches and 41 yards. And I think he has the chance to pop off, especially if Julio Jones is out again. And I think especially at 2x, his value has moved a little bit. If he gets around that range where, around the 11, double digits, I think he's going to be worth it.
Even if Julio does play too, because we've seen in games where Julio's had this hamstring issue.
Yeah,
past few years, even where games where he plays and he has that questionable tag, he doesn't perform. And you've seen Russell Gage do it this year. You've seen Zaccheaus do it this year. Hayden Hurst, Matt Ryan's comfortable throwing to all of those guys, whether it's good for the team or not, because they stink. It doesn't matter. You're not betting on the game. You're betting on the player.
One quick last point. The Vikings are low-key one of the worst teams guarding opposing. They are. You would think the Vikings are a good defensive team. They're not. They've given up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So that's my long shot for this.
Their starting corners have been out pretty much all year. Their defensive backs are just – Harrison Smith is the only guy you see out there that you're going to recognize as a casual fan.
Yep. You want to fly through the stacks real quick?
Well, we have time. We finally have time to discuss our stacks. Kyle, we do. We have 4 minutes to talk about our stacks. So stack out, Kyle.
4 minutes in my mind is a lot shorter than yours, I guess. It's kind of a hard thing to figure out in my head. But anyway, so I'll go with my stack here. I mentioned before, you want to be stacking the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm doing it again this week. Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. You want Kirk Cousins at 1.4. I mean, we've seen Teddy Bridgewater lit up the Falcons last week, and if you should, anyone who had him at 1.7 should have played him last week. And I think Kirk Cousins is going to be that guy again against this garbage Falcons defense. Todd Gurley has looked really good so far. The last couple of weeks on the ground for the Falcons. He had a huge game against against Carolina last week in the loss. So I like him a lot at 1.4. Adam Thielen, who I already talked about, he's my full slate must start. And then Calvin Ridley, he's had a breakout season so far this year for the Falcons and the games he has played in. And at 1.2x, I really like that value. He had again with Todd Gurley, had a really big game against the Panthers in the loss. So I think that's a game that's going to have a lot of points scored. You can never fail stacking a game, creating a stack where the Falcons are involved. You can never fail. And so,
why didn't you do it last week, Kyle?
I would have. I would have stacked it. I would have stacked on this show if we can't have the same stack. We want to do different ones just to give the audience something fresh. Right. So I would have picked yours, but I had to settle for Joe Burrow and the Ravens, and we all know how that worked out. It was terrible. Yeah. So anyway, go with yours.
All right, we'll make this quick. I don't have players. I just have teams. That Texans-Titans game, I'm going to stack the hell out of that. You have 2 quarterbacks who can score points with their arm or with their legs in Tannehill and Deshaun Watson. You have a running back in Derrick Henry who we saw him last night. I know it's recency bias. He had minimal carries, still had 2 touchdowns, still looked great. That stiff arm, get out of here, live scoring. God. Like, what's up with that?
He stiff-armed Josh Norman through the crust of the earth.
And thank God, because I hate Josh Norman. Josh Norman was good for a second, and then he ran his mouth. And just get out of here. Get out of here, Josh Norman. I hate you. But I like a stack with Deshaun Watson, Derrick Henry, and a Deshaun Watson pass catcher. Derrick Henry, because this Texans defense cannot stop the run. They can't stop the run. They have a hard time stopping the pass too, but I like Derrick Henry because the Titans want to maintain possession of that ball. They want to run the clock down. Watson can put up points with his arm and his legs. You don't even need a pass catcher with Deshaun Watson because he's not dependent on his receivers to score points. But obviously that one, Will Fuller is probably your best bet. Brandon Cooks came out last week and looked like the Brandon Cooks of old. So who knows? But I like Deshaun Watson, Derrick Henry, and the Texans pass catcher. I even like a stack with just Deshaun Watson and Derrick Henry. I think they complement each other very well in that game. And you're right, Bert. That Texans defense can't stop a nosebleed.
Yeah, and I would love to see Derrick Henry just murder another human being on the football field. That'd be cool.
That would be great. All right, that was week 6 of Fantasy Gainz. Stay tuned, or not stay tuned. Keep an eye out on social media. Kyle and I will be posting our must-plays at each position with different multipliers later this week on Instagram. Hopefully it can help you out, and hopefully you win some money.